All right, so just to start off, my opponent talked a lot about thorium and how we don't have the technology to actually use it for nuclear power, and that's true, and that's what my partner said. We need the funding to produce the technology to actually use thorium, but it is capable of creating nuclear power. So I'd just like to address the safety issue once again, because that seems to be a primary concern for a lot of people. I'm going to do that by talking about the Fukushima, Japan meltdown. It wasn't as catastrophic as it seems. I have a quote from Frank von Hippel of the Sage Journals, it's a scientific journal, who says the release of radioactivity into the atmosphere has been estimated by Japan's government as about 1/10 of that from the Chernobyl accident. And much of the radioactivity that was released from the reactors was captured in the water inside the reactor buildings. So of course there's plenty of safety measures that are in order to make sure that nobody is harmed and the environment isn't harmed. And also, once again, this was caused by a crazy earthquake and a tsunami right after it. This wasn't just an inherent problem with nuclear energy that caused the meltdown in Fukushima. I'd also like to talk about nuclear waste and how it's actually quite minimal and it's highly manageable. I have a quote from James Lovelock of the ecolo.org, which is an online journal. He says, an outstanding advantage of nuclear over fossil fuel energy is how easy it is to deal with the waste it produces. Fossil fuel burning produces 27,000 million tons of carbon dioxide yearly. This is enough to make a mountain nearly 2 kilometers high with a base 10 kilometers in circumference. The same quantity of energy, if it came from nuclear reactions, would make 14,000 tons of high-level waste, a quantity that occupies a 16-meter-sided cube. So there's no real issue of where we can store this waste because it's not producing much in the first place. And if they have the technology to actually produce a nuclear reactor, I'm sure that they can have the technology to produce something that houses it safely. I also have another quote from my good friend Patrick Moore, that it's incorrect to call it waste because 95% of the potential energy is still contained in the used fuel after the first cycle. So now that the U.S. has removed the ban on recycling used fuel, it will be possible to use that energy to greatly reduce the amount of waste that needs treatment and disposal. And he also says that within 40 years, the used nuclear fuel has less than 1/1000th of the radioactivity it had when it was removed from the reactor. So nuclear waste is not an issue at all. Just to reiterate on the emissions, I have a quote from Bruno Combi, again of ecolo.org, in an article called The Benefits of Nuclear Energy, that nuclear energy produces almost no carbon dioxide and no sulfur dioxide or nitrogen oxide whatsoever. These gases are produced in vast quantities when fossil fuels are burned. And I know that my opponent said that there's a lot of carbon dioxide that is released in the building of the plants, but that's really not the issue here. When coal plants are burning to produce energy, it's releasing tons of CO2. And if we burn nuclear and make nuclear energy instead, like none of that is even an issue. There's not going to be any CO2 that's released at all.